Nobody in the South Side neighborhood thought much of Marcus Holloway. He walked slow, talked slower, and had a way of staring at walls that made people uncomfortable. At school, teachers ignored him. Classmates whispered and laughed. Even at his first job stocking shelves at Walgreens, the manager sighed every time he fumbled with boxes. To the world, Marcus was nothing more than a dull kid who would probably never amount to anything. But here's the thing. Marcus was watching everyone. Every laugh, every glance, every small act of kindness or cruelty. Most people didn't notice. That quiet observation would later become his secret advantage, but nobody knew that yet. Then, Jasmine King moved into the neighborhood. She was the opposite of Marcus in every way. Bold, sharp, quick to speak her mind. Her family had just moved from Atlanta after her mother passed away, and the Chicago streets felt both exciting and heavy with history she didn't yet understand. From the first day she noticed Marcus, something about him didn't sit right. He seemed off, yet there was a spark, a depth she couldn't explain. The first time their paths truly crossed was at the corner store. Marcus was there, dropping a bag of sugar and fumbling coins, and everyone laughed. Jasmine laughed too, but differently. She noticed the way he steadied the younger cashier who was struggling with the register, the careful way he helped an elderly woman grab her groceries, the tiny gestures everyone else ignored. Why do people act like he's nothing? Jasmine whispered to herself, curiosity sharpening in her chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus was hiding something huge, something nobody would ever see coming. As she walked home that day, she felt a mix of irritation, fascination, and a strange sense of responsibility. She didn't know it yet, but Marcus Holloway, the so-called Dullard, was about to change everything she thought she knew about her neighborhood, and maybe even about life itself.
Welcome to Tales by Daisy. I am happy to have you join this community. Before the drama unfolds, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and comment your location below. I'd love to know where you're watching from.
The block party that weekend was loud, chaotic, and sticky with August heat. Music blared from battered speakers, kids ran through puddles from a sudden hose spray, and neighbors jostled under tents with grills smoking in every corner. Jasmine kept her distance at first, observing, and then she saw him, Marcus. He wasn't just standing awkwardly in a corner this time. He was moving quietly through the crowd, helping wherever anyone struggled. A little boy tripped over a stray hose and Marcus caught him before he hit the ground. An elderly man dropped his plate of food and Marcus was there to hand it back, calm and steady. It didn't feel forced. It felt natural. Jasmine couldn't stop watching. She noticed small details others missed, how he balanced several plates of food with ease, how he spoke softly to calm someone crying, even how he noticed when the local stray dog wandered too close to traffic and gently guided it away. Marcus wasn't clumsy or dull. He was invisible in plain sight, quietly orchestrating order in chaos. And yet, the neighborhood still laughed at him. Someone yelled, "Marcus, you dropping something again?" He gave a faint smile, said nothing, and kept moving. Jasmine felt a mix of admiration and frustration. How could everyone overlook him so easily? Then, just as she stepped closer to talk to him, he vanished. 1 second he was handing drinks, the next he was gone, swallowed by the crowd. Rumors swirled immediately. Where did he go? Did he even live here? Here's the thing. This is where the story gets tricky. Do you think Marcus is hiding or is there something else going on? Drop your guess in the comments. I want to see if you can figure out what he's really up to before it's revealed. Marcus didn't just disappear at the block party. He slipped through alleys and side streets, moving with a quiet purpose that nobody in the neighborhood could understand. Jasmine, driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, decided to follow him. She ducked behind trash cans, sidestepped puddles, and finally found herself outside a run-down apartment building a few blocks from the main street. Inside, the scene was nothing like she expected. The apartment was cramped, cluttered, and chaotic at first glance. But then she noticed the walls. They were covered in blueprints, sketches, and intricate designs. Small mechanical devices sat on tables, half-finished and humming quietly. Notes littered every surface, full of equations, diagrams, and ideas she couldn't fully understand, but she could tell they were incredible. Marcus was hunched over a small device, adjusting wires and murmuring to himself. It wasn't random tinkering, it was precise, deliberate, genius-level work. He looked up briefly, eyes meeting hers, and for a moment she saw vulnerability, focus, and brilliance all at once. "Marcus, what is all this?" she asked softly. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he carefully finished his adjustments and set the device down. Then he finally spoke, voice low but confident. "Most people only see what they want. I've learned to work in the shadows." Jasmine felt a chill. Every mock, every laugh the neighborhood had thrown his way, it all made sense now. Marcus wasn't clumsy. He wasn't slow. He was hiding something powerful, something that could change lives if used the right way. But why hide it? And who would ever notice in a place that ignored him? Questions piled up faster than she could process. And that's when she realized something even stranger. Some of his designs weren't just mechanical. They had the potential to save lives, improve neighborhoods, and solve problems nobody else even thought about. Here's a thought for you. If someone around you seemed invisible, but secretly had world-changing talents, how would you react? Comment below. Do you think Jasmine should tell anyone, or let Marcus stay hidden for now? Jasmine didn't speak again. She just watched, awe and worry twisting together in her chest. One thing was certain. Marcus Holloway, the kid everyone dismissed as a dullard, was nothing of the sort. And whatever came next, it was going to change everything for both of them. Marcus wasn't just hiding genius in his apartment. He had a second life nobody in the neighborhood could imagine. By day, he walked the streets quietly, keeping to himself, blending in with the chaos of Southside Chicago. By night, he became something else entirely. Jasmine discovered this by accident. She followed him one evening, expecting him to disappear into his apartment again. Instead, he turned down a quiet street and entered the back doors of Mercy Hospital. There, Marcus worked as an orderly, but not just any orderly. He moved with precision, watching monitors, assisting patients, and quietly fixing mistakes that could have had deadly consequences. A nurse was fumbling with an IV machine, panic in her eyes. Marcus appeared instantly, adjusting the equipment with calm hands. The patient, unaware of the danger they were in, smiled at him. No one else seemed to notice the near disaster he had prevented. Jasmine's chest tightened. This was the same Dullard everyone mocked. How could someone so overlooked perform miracles in secret? Then she noticed the small devices scattered around the hospital, makeshift sensors, compact tools, and designs that no medical student could even imagine. Marcus had built them himself, quietly integrating technology that could detect errors before they happened. Each night, he risked exposure and judgment to protect strangers. Her heart swelled with admiration and worry. If anyone discovered his inventions, Marcus could be in danger. If he stayed hidden, the world would never know the truth. Here's a question for you. If someone you knew had the ability to save lives in secret, would you help them or let them carry the weight alone? Type your answer in the comments. I want to see what you'd do if you were in Jasmine's shoes. As Marcus moved through the dim hospital corridors, Jasmine followed at a distance, stunned by the stark contrast between his quiet reputation and the life he led. Every step he took, every patient he helped, every device he adjusted, everything added layers to the boy she thought she understood. One thing was certain, Marcus Holloway, the neighborhood's overlooked Dullard, had a side of him that no one would ever forget once it came to light. Marcus never talked about his father, not at school, not at work, not even to Jasmine. But the truth was always there, buried under years of silence. His father had been an engineer, brilliant in ways that mirrored Marcus's own hidden talents. But one day, he vanished. No notes, no explanation, just debts, rumors, and a handful of dangerous people left behind. That night, Jasmine finally asked, "Marcus, why do you hide all this? Why not tell anyone?" He looked away, jaw tight. Some truths are too heavy. Some people aren't ready.
But Jasmine wasn't satisfied. Her curiosity only grew. Over the next few days, she noticed subtle signs, shadows outside his apartment, strangers asking questions about deliveries, and once, a man following him from the corner store. Marcus was cautious, always checking over his shoulder, moving quickly through streets that once seemed familiar. It hit Jasmine all at once. Marcus's brilliance wasn't just hiding talent, it was survival, and his father's past was the reason. She pressed further, wanting answers, needing to understand the man she was growing to care about. "Who is after you?" she whispered. He hesitated, then slowly began to explain. His father had left behind debts owed to people who didn't forgive easily. Some of them were dangerous. Some wanted more than money. They wanted control, and they saw Marcus as the key. Every invention, every device, every life-saving act could draw attention. Jasmine's chest tightened. She felt a mix of fear, anger, and awe. Here was a boy everyone laughed at, hiding a world of danger and brilliance right under their noses. She couldn't imagine the weight he carried every single day. And that's when a thought struck her. What would you do if the person you trusted most was keeping a life-threatening secret? Would you stay close or run for safety? Type your answer in the comments. I want to see what you do in Jasmine's shoes. That night, Marcus walked the streets with Jasmine trailing quietly behind, the city lights casting long shadows on cracked sidewalks. Every step reminded him that the world could be cruel, unforgiving, and dangerously unaware of what he could do. But he also knew something else. He wasn't alone anymore. Jasmine had seen a fragment of the truth, and that made everything more complicated and more real. One thing was certain. The quiet boy everyone called a dullard carried the weight of his father's past and the danger of the present. And soon, the two worlds were about to collide in ways neither of them could predict. For weeks, Marcus had managed to stay invisible. His inventions, his nightly hospital work, and even the shadow of danger from his father's past, everything was carefully hidden. But secrets have a way of slipping through cracks. It started small. Jasmine, worried about Marcus and wanting to help him, mentioned his inventions to her older brother during a casual conversation. She didn't think much of it. He worked in tech investment and was always looking for the next big thing. Within hours, messages began arriving, emails, calls, even texts from people claiming to know Marcus's genius. Suddenly, the boy who everyone laughed at was being called a prodigy. Neighborhood kids whispered, adults gawked, and local media sniffed around, trying to uncover the hidden genius of Southside Chicago. Marcus didn't know how to react. His private world, carefully hidden for years, was starting to crumble. Jasmine felt a mix of guilt and panic. She hadn't meant for his life to explode like this, but she also couldn't ignore the opportunity. Could this be the chance for Marcus to finally step into the light? Or would it expose him to dangers he wasn't ready to face? The tension was electric. Marcus's inventions weren't just clever, they were life-changing. And now everyone wanted a piece. Investors, media, and worse, people connected to his father's past began circling. The once overlooked boy was suddenly under a spotlight that could either make him or break him. Here's where I need you viewers. What would you do if your secret life, something that helped countless people, suddenly became public? Would you fight to protect it or let the world take over? Comment below. I want to see if you would trust others with your most private achievements. Marcus retreated to his apartment that night, scanning every message, every email, every suspicious shadow outside his window. The Dullard who had been mocked his entire life now faced scrutiny, expectation, and risk all at once. He realized that staying hidden might no longer be possible, and for the first time, he wondered if revealing his genius could also mean losing everything he cared about, including Jasmine, who had already seen more than anyone else would. He sat in silence, machines humming quietly around him, and thought, some things change everything the moment they are revealed. Some truths can't stay hidden forever. And in that moment, Marcus Holloway's life, the boy everyone thought was slow and foolish, began to spin in a direction nobody could have predicted. Marcus had thought he could handle the attention. Investors, media, even curious neighbors, he could navigate that. But nothing prepared him for the people who had been waiting in the shadows. It started with a knock on his apartment door at midnight. He froze. Jasmine had been standing in the hallway, eyes wide, heart racing. They didn't speak, but she knew. Marcus wasn't just being cautious anymore. This was serious. The men outside weren't there to negotiate or warn. They wanted something. Something Marcus's father had left behind. Something Marcus now possessed. Every invention, every device, every life-saving act could draw attention. Jasmine's chest tightened. She felt a mix of fear, anger, and awe. Here was a boy everyone laughed at, hiding a world of danger and brilliance right under their noses. She couldn't imagine the weight he carried every single day. Here's a thought for you. If someone you trusted was being hunted for something they didn't even want to reveal, would you follow them into danger or stay behind? Type your answer in the comments. I want to see how far you'd go for someone you believed in. By the time they reached the hospital's back entrance, Marcus had already mapped out their next move. Devices from his apartment, small, portable inventions, were ready to slow down anyone who pursued them. Jasmine couldn't believe it. Every step he took, every decision he made was calculated for survival, yet no one outside knew he had this side at all. In that moment, she understood the full weight of what Marcus carried. Not just the brilliance, not just the secrets, but the constant danger that came from being who he truly was. And for the first time, she wondered, could the world ever see him the way she did? Or would it always be too dangerous for anyone else to know the truth? Marcus Holloway, the boy everyone thought was a dullard, had become something far more, an unseen force, a protector, and a genius the city had never imagined. The night air in Southside Chicago was thick with tension. Marcus and Jasmine crouched behind dumpsters near the abandoned warehouse where his father's old enemies had been spotted. Every shadow, every distant footstep felt like it carried danger. Marcus's fingers hovered over small devices he had carried with him, simple-looking gadgets, but enough to give them an edge. "Stay close," Marcus whispered. His voice was calm, but Jasmine could feel the weight behind it. She had seen him handle emergencies before, but never with this kind of stakes, never with lives and secrets intertwined in such a dangerous dance. The enemies were smarter than Marcus expected. They'd anticipated traps, predicted routes, and moved with precision. But Marcus had something they didn't: understanding, observation, and timing, honed from years of being underestimated. As the first figure appeared at the corner of the warehouse, Marcus activated a small device on the ground. A bright flash and loud buzz disoriented the man, giving Jasmine just enough time to pull him behind cover. Marcus's calm, quick decisions turned what could have been a disaster into advantage. Then another enemy appeared, this one carrying something heavy, clearly not just a threat, but a weapon. Jasmine's heart raced as Marcus adjusted another gadget, a small mechanical contraption that quietly jammed the attacker's movement, slowing him down without a sound. The night became a chaotic ballet of shadows, movement, and ingenuity. Here's a question for you. If someone you knew could fight off danger in ways nobody else could imagine, would you trust them completely or second-guess every step? Comment below. I want to see if you'd stay loyal in a life or death moment. The final figure emerged, someone with a clear connection to Marcus's father. The tension snapped. Every secret, every invention, every careful decision led to this confrontation. Marcus stepped forward, using both his intellect and improvised devices to neutralize the threat. Jasmine watched, stunned, as the boy everyone laughed at executed a plan so precise it could have been rehearsed for months. Finally, silence fell over the warehouse. Marcus's enemies lay subdued, confused, and defeated, not by brute force, but by strategy and brilliance. Jasmine exhaled slowly, realizing she had witnessed something extraordinary. The boy they had mocked had become an unseen force, a protector and a genius hiding in plain sight. As they walked away, Marcus glanced at Jasmine. His eyes held exhaustion, but also relief. "This isn't over," he said softly, "but tonight we survived." And for the first time, Jasmine realized just how much of himself Marcus had carried silently for years, and how much courage it took to finally confront the shadows of his father's past. The neighborhood would never know what had happened that night, but she did, and that made everything different. The sun hadn't even risen when Marcus and Jasmine returned to his apartment. The night's chaos had left them both drained, but Marcus's mind was already running through what had happened, recalculating risks, threats, and possibilities. For years, he had carried secrets, his inventions, his father's unfinished work, and the danger it invited. Now, everything had spilled into the open, at least for Jasmine. She looked at him, eyes wide. "Marcus, all this time you were saving lives, protecting people in secret, and nobody knew?" He nodded, a quiet exhaustion in his gaze. "I had to hide it. If people saw me as I really am, the wrong people would take it, or worse. The neighborhood would still laugh, and I couldn't risk anyone else getting hurt." Jasmine's heart ached with both awe and anger. How could the world have been so blind to someone so extraordinary? All the mockery, all the humiliation, they had been undeserved. And the people who were after him, they weren't just greedy. They wanted control over brilliance that could save lives, and Marcus had kept it from them. Here's a thought for you. Have you ever overlooked someone because of appearances only to discover later they were incredible? Type yes or no in the comments. I want to see how often the world misses hidden brilliance. As the morning light crept through the blinds, Marcus finally began to share more. His father's disappearance, the debts left behind, the enemies waiting in shadows, all of it. Every detail of the weight he had carried silently, every invention he had hidden, every night he had risked for strangers. Jasmine listened, stunned, feeling a mix of admiration, heartbreak, and outrage on his behalf. For the first time, Marcus allowed himself to breathe. The boy everyone had dismissed as slow, awkward, and dull had survived ridicule, danger, and years of secrecy. And now, a few people finally saw the full truth. Jasmine, of course, was at the center of that revelation. She had witnessed it all, and in doing so, she realized the neighborhood and maybe the world had been wrong about him all along. Marcus Holloway was no dullard. He was a force that had been hidden in plain sight, and the revelation of who he truly was would leave everyone who had underestimated him questioning everything they thought they knew. Weeks had passed since the showdown. Marcus's life had returned to a quieter rhythm, though the shadows of danger never fully disappeared. The neighborhood, oblivious to what really happened, still laughed at him occasionally, but now Jasmine knew the truth, and that was enough for him.
Marcus didn't seek fame. He didn't post about his inventions or his nights at the hospital. He simply continued, quietly, improving lives where he could. The boy everyone called a dullard had learned the power of invisibility, but also the strength that comes from integrity, courage, and resilience. Jasmine often walked with him through the streets, watching him notice what others missed. A loose brick that could trip a child, a stray dog in danger, a neighbor struggling with groceries. Marcus's genius wasn't flashy. It was subtle, steady, and life-changing, and Jasmine admired him more than ever for it. Here's a question for you. Do you think brilliance always needs recognition to matter, or can it thrive in silence? Comment below. I want to know what you believe about hidden genius. One morning, Marcus finally opened up to the community in a small way.
He helped the local clinic implement a safety device he had invented years ago, quietly saving dozens of lives. Some noticed, some didn't, and that was fine. The lesson was clear. True worth isn't always measured by applause. It's measured by impact, by courage, and by the choices we make when no one is watching. Jasmine smiled as she watched him leave the clinic, calm and composed, carrying his quiet power with him. The boy they had underestimated had become a man who carried the weight of his father's past, the burden of genius, and the heart to protect others. Marcus Holloway, once dismissed as slow and foolish, had transformed not just himself, but the neighborhood, in ways no one would ever fully understand. And perhaps that was exactly how it should be. Brilliance, courage, and kindness hidden in plain sight, changing the world quietly, one small act at a time. The neighborhood might never know, but for those who had witnessed it, Marcus's story became a powerful reminder. Never judge someone by what you see. Some of the most extraordinary people are the ones you never notice until it's too late to forget.